Hey, welcome to another episode of the Financepreneur Podcast. I'm your host, Shelly Pugh, and I'm excited to be with you today. Today we're going to discuss credit, right? Y'all know that's my favorite topic. If you don't know, you will soon learn. Credit is my favorite topic. So that's what we're going to talk about today. I want to know, are you winning at the credit game? All right? So there are a few things that you need to know when it comes to winning the credit game. Because that's exactly what it is. It's a game. You got to be in it to win it, and you got to know the rules to play. And so what happens a lot of time is, I say some people luck up and have good credit. And I don't mean luck up literally, but what I mean is they don't necessarily know the formula, but because they've done some things right along the way, they have gotten good credit. So I'll give you an example. I have one client that I'm working with. They came into my program already with excellent credit. So they came in for other financial services, all right, to work with me. And they said, well, Shelly, I already have good credit. And so we were talking about it. They're part of the 800 Club. And I said, okay, well, what are you doing to maintain that good credit? They had absolutely no idea. And so one thing he did say was that he was exhausted because he's always monitoring it. So that let me know right there that even though he had attained excellent credit, he had no idea. So he was winning by default, not by design. He didn't necessarily know what took place to get good credit. So the first thing I want to do is I want to talk about what credit is and what credit isn't. And so a lot of people think that credit, let's talk about from a derogatory point of view first, all right? So people think that when something goes on their credit, like a negative item, a default payment, something along those lines, that it has to stay on their credit report 7 to 10 years. Because that's what creditors tell you. Like, you got a bankruptcy, this is going to be on your credit report for 10 years. So they feel like for the next decade, I'm bound by this stigma of this bankruptcy or tax lien or whatever is on my credit. There is no law whatsoever that says that anything has to be on your credit 7 to 10 years. It says that it can be on your credit up to. So you got to read those words. Has to and up to are two totally different things. All right. So I want to debunk some myths real quick. A lot of people think that credit bureaus are government agencies because it sounds official, right? Credit bureau. Nope. They're private businesses. All three of them. Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion are private for-profit businesses. Just like the business I own, just like the business that you own. They're making money off of it. And so how do they make their money? They make their money because creditors pay them to put items on your report. Because by law, they're supposed to call and ask you. So let's say I default on a Macy's card. Credit Experian calls me, Macy's calls me and says, hey Shelly, we see you haven't been able to pay. Is it cool if we just go ahead and put this on your credit? What y'all think I'm gonna say? No, absolutely not. You cannot put that on my credit. I know I didn't pay you, but it's not going on my credit. So to get around that, they've gotten clever. They just say, okay, I'll pay TransUnion to put it on your credit since you won't allow me. I just skip over you and pay them. Now, it's actually illegal, but they just have to pay a small fine for it. So if you're a multi-billion-dollar business, is $1 million a fine really hurting you? Absolutely not. That's pennies on the dollar, okay? And so we gotta know our rights because there are laws we put in place to protect us. But before I get into those laws, I just kind of want to stick to the credit bureaus real quick. So you ever notice that if you pull all through your credit reports, they might read a little bit differently? Like TransUnion might have an account in delinquent that Experian doesn't. And that's because they all work separately. And so every time an item is placed on your credit, they have to pay for that. So everybody doesn't report to all three because that's money out of their pocket. All right. And so I just want to let y'all know real quick that there are laws to protect us. And that law is called the Fair Credit Reporting Act. It was established in 1970 to help consumers because y'all, even if you default, yes, you owe the loan, you owe the debt, but should it haunt you for the next 7 to 10 years? Absolutely not, right? There are still things that we need to get in life that we need great credit scores for. Remember, in previous episodes, I told you how you need credit for good insurance rates. You need credit for good interest rates. You need credit for certain jobs, right? And so because you made a mistake 7 to 10 years ago, it shouldn't haunt you later in life. You could have evolved by then. You know, life goes on, and so we shouldn't always be penalized for those mistakes. So I want to tell you how we're going to correct it. All right. So the first thing is we got to know the laws. There are laws put in place to protect us. And that law says that anything that is erroneous, obsolete, or inaccurate can be disputed. All right? So there's about a 70 to 90% chance that things on your credit report are inaccurate. And then let's say something is accurate, right? It was you, it was your debt, you owe the money, you didn't pay. That still doesn't mean that it can't come on. All right? Now you still owe the debt, pay the people their money, but we can still get it off your credit, because we don't want something like that to affect you when you go to start building your business. Because until we get our personal credit right, we can't begin to start working on building our business credit. And so we don't want those things to haunt us. All right? So certain things that go on our credit. What's that? Late payments, charge-offs, child support, tax liens, bankruptcies. It's a lot of things that go. Student loans. How many of y'all are being haunted with student loans? Student loans. They will get you. All right? They will get you. And it's, for some people, it is almost even impossible for them to ever even be able to pay those back because of the job they have, how much the student loan is, plus the interest. They be working like 100 years trying to make the minimum payment. It'll never work with the minimum payment. But at any rate, we just want to make sure that we start winning at the credit game. So let's talk about how credit is calculated. All right, so there are 5 factors that make up your credit score. So the biggest one is your payment history. So 35% of your credit score is based on your payment history. So that is why it's so vitally important to pay your bills on time. That's when that budget comes into place, because you know exactly how much you owe and what day you owe it. So when you're talking about that 35% of payment history, remember it goes back up to 7 years. So for 7 years, they're going to look at how did you pay your bills. All right. Now there's a stronger focus on the last 24 months. So 2 months, I'm not 2 months, 2 years, 24 months, 2 years. Y'all help me get right. Those weigh heavier. So what you've been doing in the last 2 years is going to weigh a lot heavier than what you did 5 to 7 years ago. So you want to get in the habit of always paying your bills on time, because that lets people know, when people look at your credit score, what they're really saying is, are you a person of your word? Do you have credibility? See, that's the word credit. Do you have credibility? Are you credit worthy? Do you have integrity? Are you going to do what you said you're going to do? So when they see low credit scores, immediately think, no, you're not going to do what you said you're going to do. If we give you this money, you're probably not going to pay it back. And so we're starting off fresh. We got a fresh new lease on life, right? It's a new decade. We're doing things differently. So we want to correct all those things. So moving right along, when we're talking about that 35%, when you default or something becomes delinquent, one late payment can drop your credit score 50 to 100 points. That's a lot. That's just from one late payment. So that's why you really want to be on top of things, because remember I told you the last 24 months weighs the heaviest. So what you're doing now weighs a whole lot more than what you did 5 or 7 years ago. So make sure you pay those bills on time. The next part is capacity amount owed. That's 30%. So 30% is saying, are you desperate for money? That's what that means, right? So I give you a loan. I'm your creditor. I give you a loan for $100. That's your credit card limit. We're just gonna keep simple numbers so we can all stay on the same page, right? How much of that $100 should you be using for credit? Only 30%. Because see, anything over 30% makes it seem like you're desperate for money, which makes it seem like you're hard up, which then makes people think you might not pay it back. You might be overextended. Your debt to income ratio might be too high. All right. So if you have a $100 credit limit, you only want to go up to $30. That makes it seem like you're not living your life off of credit. You don't necessarily need credit. It's just an asset. You're using it to leverage. It's a big difference between needing something and leveraging something. When you leverage, you use it for your benefit. When you're desperate and you need it, you use it for a lifestyle. And that's what creditors don't want. They don't want to see you overextended, okay? Because when you get overextended, one hardship happens in life, they're never going to see their money again. So always stay within 30% of your credit limit. All right, the next thing is the length of credit. So that's how long have you had this. So 15% of your score is based on the length of the credit line that you have open. So the longer you've had a credit card or had something established, that actually works in your favor, okay? People are winning at the credit game because they know the rules. And I want to make sure that everybody who listens to the Financepreneur Podcast can win at the credit game. That we all know the rules. Everybody knows exactly what to do to get ahead in life. We're going to leverage credit, other people's money, to get exactly what we need out of life. All right? And so the last thing I want to tell you about, that fifth component to calculating your credit score, is another 10%, and that is the types of credit you use. So you've got like installment credit, and then you have revolving credit. So that would be the difference of like a car loan, a mortgage. That's installment, right? Every month, same price until it's paid off. Then you got revolving credit. Revolving credit is going to be like your credit card, right? It all depends on how much you charge, how much you're using that you have to pay. It's always revolving. It's forever changing. All right, so now with that, I'm gonna give y'all a little tip. This one's for free, okay? I'll give y'all this tip. When building your credit, you want 4 different types of credit, all right? 4 different types. That's gonna show that you know how to handle variety. It's like diversifying your funds. It's the same way with credit. You want to show diversity. I've got installments, I've got credit cards. It shows that I know how to manage it, I know how to budget it, I know how to keep it going, I know how to stay within my percents and keep my commitments. All right, so that's really what I want to share with y'all. I know that was a lot. I kind of just threw it at you. So if you need to know how to win at the money game, I've got a chart that I've created for everybody. All you got to do is get it off the website. So the website is www.shellypugh.com. It's a freebie. You don't have to pay nothing for it. It's the same information that I just gave you, but it's written out so that you can post it, study it, keep it somewhere visible so that we can start winning at the money game, at the credit game, okay? We're gonna win when it comes to credit. We're gonna secure our personal finances, get excellent credit scores so that we can begin to build big business, all right? Y'all stay lit. I'll see you in the next episode.